attend the call meeting of the City Council to be held in the 6th floor conference room, 801 Crawford Street, 5 p.m. Tuesday, June 12, 2012, for the purpose of a public work session. In addition, you may consider a motion to go into closed meeting by order of the mayor. Mr. Cherry.
Here.
Mr. Edmonds. Mr. Heretic.
Here.
Mr. Moody.
Here.
Ms. Randall. Mr. Whitehurst.
Here.
Mayor Wright.
Here.
Mr. Chandler.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council. As we start your public work session this evening, the first item we have listed is hot topics. A couple of things we want to bring you up to speed on. I'd like to ask Mr. Brandon Godfrey to join us first. We want to talk to you first about the SNAP program, or what we call the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and also bring you up to speed in terms of the later workings of the downtown library facility as we're nearing opening. Mr. Godfrey?
Thank you, Mr. Chandler. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council. Starting with the SNAP benefits program, this is the, as you mentioned, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps, that is administered through the Department of Social Services. The state has announced some changes in how that program will be administered, and it's coming down the road in September, but we want to make you aware of it now. Instead of having a single day in which SNAP benefits become initially available at the first of the month, the state has announced that it's going to issue them on 4 total days, the 1st, the 4th, the 7th, and the 9th, and make this part of its monthly calendar. The purpose was to improve recipients' access to food and help retailers assure that there's a balance of available inventory over those multiple days rather than on one day each month. They plan to begin this in September and do a conversion over 2 months, depending on the case number of the recipient will be how they'll be assigned one of those 4 issuance dates. So that'll be coming in September. We hope we don't have problems related to it, but there may be some complaints, and we just want to make you aware of that in advance. The second issue is the reopening schedule for Main Library. We are ready to tell you some specific dates. I know everybody's been looking for a specific date. We've kind of been saying late June or this summer. We are ready to say that we're going to open the library on Monday, June 25th at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. is our regular opening time, and it'll begin full operation on that day.
Pretty good.
We've also set a dedication ceremony date, as well as other community leaders will be getting an invitation to come on the following Monday, July 2nd at 10 a.m. For a formal dedication ceremony for the renovated library. So we want you to make sure you got that on your calendars, and we look forward to getting that library back in service.
Great news. Yep.
And just a related note on that, I want to take the opportunity to thank the volunteers that have been helping us get books reshelved and moved from the basement upstairs. That process is obviously still going on, as we have a lot to do between now and the 25th. But we have had volunteers from the library board, the Friends, the Navy chiefs at the shipyard, the Navy chiefs from the Harry S. Truman, staff from the Naval Medical Center, Portsmouth, and the Sheriff's Department. All those folks have pitched in to help us get things moved from downstairs to upstairs and reshelved. Any questions on the main library?
Very good. Any questions? All right. Thank you, sir. Okay.
One other item about Craddock Rec facilities, and just sort of a 2-week in advance informational item for you. On your June 26th agenda, we will have an item to request moving $450,000 that is currently in the general fund operating budget in FY12 into the CIP fund, and this will enable us to reserve that money when and if the development moves forward and the closing occurs. we'd originally thought that the closing was going to occur on June 1st of this year. That has not happened, and now as we approach the end of the fiscal year, we want to make sure that that money's available when the closing does occur. So this is really sort of a housekeeping matter to make sure that money is reserved. So that'll be on your 26th.
What's the new date for the closing?
I have no idea. That'd be something to ask PRHA and their communications with the developer.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Godfrey. Okay, council members, next hot topic we wanted to chat with you about just a little bit would be an update on the courts facility, and this is the new courts facility. As we are nearing completion, we have had a little bit of conversation, but we wanted to just kind of say publicly as we talk with council that we are now expecting to get the certificate of occupancy on the 16th of July, which is a Monday. And the judges have worked with us diligently. The move time will be late August or September, in which they will work to actually shut the courts down to minimal level of service so they can create a window over a 2-week period of time to make the bigger transition. What we also wanted to talk to you about in terms of commemorative ceremonies, we have tentatively got a date scheduled at this point for July 19th and 20th. For some opening ceremonies of the facility. We're thinking that the ribbon cutting or dedication service would probably be Friday the 20th. And of course, we're talking tentatively about a 1 o'clock start. We would have the ribbon cutting ceremony, and then of course you would have, with that ceremony, some public tour opportunities. The public tour opportunities will really take you through the general circulation of the court facilities where most citizens would interact. Probably on the 19th, the day before, you probably will have an opportunity for some type of more of a personal tour, if you will, for the judges, council members, and probably some of the Hampton Roads judicial folks, if you will. You are talking about what will be one of the newer courthouses in Hampton Roads, yet alone the state, and probably a noteworthy facility as well. So in that, we would want to schedule something where council could actually host more of the judiciary population. That might be possibly members of the state Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, dignitaries like that, for more of a showcase tour with council members, probably a little bit greater security on that event as well. But again, just to kind of get into the facility and do some tours there as well. So tentatively, it looks like that's all underway.
19th and the 20th of July.
19th and the 20th. And the bigger public event, of course, would be the 20th, that we'd look at probably a 1 o'clock start. As we are nearing completion and working on some of the final details with the judges, we're at a point now where we're starting to work to order the commemorative placard as one thing, as we mentioned, getting the move dates down and scheduled. The other thing that has been initiated by the circuit court judges at this point is they have made the initial contact with their legal counsel to actually start the process of removing the road requirement.
Great.
That was in the order.
Great news.
And of course, there's some other ancillary things that we've worked on, some audio-visual equipment, things that they'll kind of need in the circuit court level, and about the video arraignment and the things that the lower courts would use. So we'll keep you abreast of that process. The law department is working diligently on the other side, with their legal counsel to make whatever arrangements we need to get that done. We don't anticipate any major hiccup, regarding that at this point, so it is all systems go. So the bigger time is really that 20th date of July, that we would be doing the ribbon cutting ceremony. Of course, the move-in date would be a little bit later than that, probably late August, that they would physically make the hop and move into the facility.
How are we looking budget-wise on that project?
We're totally
Too early?
within budget.
Yeah, I
We're
know,
totally-
but what else is there?
The last things, remember what we had said, the contingency of the project was going to cover the road.
Video teleconference and
All of that
is in
was
there?
included within the contingency, yes, sir. Remember, we're at a point where the road was about $250,000. if I had a thumbnail sketch or rough estimate of some of the other improvements that we're doing, probably in the neighborhood of about 180,000 right now, 190 maybe. So there'll be some savings in that regard.
Okay,
But seems to be moving pretty nicely.
that's good.
And everybody seems to be pretty excited about the project at this point.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Make sure we cover a couple things. The other thing we wanted to mention, too, as a hot topic, I wanted to bring Richard Hartman forward. Probably about 2 weeks ago, I think, Councilman Moody, in particular, had mentioned a desire for some more information about some of the city's work in development of facilities, in particular the Churchland High School that currently exists. So we figured we have Richard for about, another 2 weeks or so? Another 2 weeks before he actually
Who's
retires.
counting? Who's counting?
Yeah. So this is a totally uncut version.
Okay.
I haven't sanctioned him. I'm not sure what he may say.
This time.
I just want to preface that he's actually 2 weeks away from retirement, and he's got all of his paperwork
In the
approved.
military, they call that getting short.
We're down 11 days and 10 minutes.
But we thought it would be helpful. I mean, it's a historical project, and that you might desire a little bit more insight in terms of some of the workings that we've had with the project, as it continues to move forward. It's a facility that's 20 years old at this point, and, still has some things in terms of the life expectancy of that envelope. Mr. Hartman?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Mr. Manager, thank you.
Sir?
Pleasure to be here. To go into the Churchland High School, as you know, the school is 20 years old this year. And I can say I was there from the beginning. To understand Churchland High School, there's basically three pieces to look at. The first piece is how the school got to be what it is. What process happened and how to get to be the caliber and the type of system that it is the first piece. Second piece is what was wrong with it? Something didn't happen, but what was it that was the problem? And thirdly is how was it taken care of and what was done? Those are the three pieces you got to remember. The first piece is the school was in the design. The school was opened in '92, but in the process of the design, and I can say this not as hearsay because I was in the meeting. The school was selected, and we had the architect and the school staff in the room, and the decision had to be made on what system was the HVAC for the school. What was the heating and ventilation for the school, and the architect presented a couple options. One was to go with a more costly capital system that cost a little more up front, but it got into less maintenance over the life of the building. It was a little more reliable in the future. Or you could go with a cheaper system that would have more capital in the building, but it was going to cost you more maintenance in the end. The school chose the cheaper capital one that was going to have more maintenance in the end. That was the design that was picked. And what happened was that the company that designed it said that the school would need to have about 2 maintenance people in the school all the time to deal with heat pumps. That really never happened. There weren't that many people there. The system actually has a heat pump for every classroom, is how the system is. And it's circulated by a constant water temperature, water source heat pumps that circulate water through a steel pipe, not a plastic one that was mentioned. What I've understood is the pipes that are being replaced with plastic when they break. That's the system that's in there and it was picked. Now, what happened with it? That's a different story. Back in the 70s, you remember the gas crisis, the energy crisis in the 70s? Well, that led to a design of all public buildings and private buildings of that era, the same era as the Churchland High School, to go to energy efficiency. It cost you more. We were short on gas. Everybody thought we were running out of fuel. We got to design things more efficiently. Well, what that meant is you circulate the air in the building instead of bringing in fresh air. The more you circulate inside and less fresh air you bring in, it's cheaper to reheat heated air, and it's cheaper to cooled air, if you follow what I'm saying. When you bring that same air back, it's going from 80 to 75 instead of 110 to 75 or 100 to 75, so it's cheaper to circulate the air. Well, a lot of buildings in the country were designed that way because it was efficiency. Well, nobody realized until they were built and operating that it created an indoor air quality problem. All the contaminants in the building, the germs, the dust, the everything got circulated through, and it caused some serious health problems, and people had a lot of real problems out of the air quality because of that. And that didn't matter whether it was a cheaper system or the more expensive system. They all had that problem because the standard back then was 5 cubic feet per minute of air per occupant. Well, the ASHRAE standard is gone. Is now 10 cubic feet of air per minute. It's doubled. So you had an air supply problem that was the problem of the schools.
So no matter which system, you still had the air quality? Okay.
It didn't matter what system. I mean, that was just a system, but the problem was the same. It was
all based on recircing and
That's right.
utilizing. Okay.
And then, if you remember back when that all came about, there were buildings all over the country, private as well as public buildings, that had to be redone. So we went to analysis of the building, and basically, just to summarize what we did, we went and we replaced and modified the system that was there. We didn't upgrade it to the Cadillac. We went with a system that was picked in the school, and we replaced every heat pump in the classroom wing over a period of 97 to 2000, I think. Over about 3 years, we replaced all the heat pumps in the classroom wings, and we replaced them with a heat pump that had a reheat capability, which meant it could run again to pull humidity out. The problem was humidity in the building. It was air quality, and the problem was humidity. Well, the heat pumps that were put in there had what was called a reheat capability, and it took care of the humidity in the building too. So we did that and replaced them, and then we went to in more air intakes, more fresh air intakes to bring more fresh air into the building. And then we went to some make-up air units that were putting air into the bigger spaces, the library, the cafeteria, and the gym. Those were big make-up air units. So that was basically, in a nutshell, the system. We turned the system over. In fact, we even paid the HVAC contractor for the school system about $25,000 to adjust the control system to modify it to the heat pumps that were in the school. And the HVAC contractor was the only one that could operate those heat pumps and had to set the controls. The comment was made that it's wildly fluctuating temperatures of hot and cold. Well, picture the HVAC system, the heating system for the school. There's a piping system that circulates water through the school. It's a constant temperature in one pipe going all through. It doesn't fluctuate in temperature. The fluctuation in temperature comes from the control of the heat pumps that are in each room, that you set the on and you set the off. Well, that's how you control the temperature, not by, there's no fluctuation in the circulating water. And that was the responsibility of the HVAC contractor for the high school. That was their job, and they accepted the fact in a meeting I was in that they were the only ones that could do that because they were the only one that had access to the controls. We went into the building after we finished it, and we tested rooms out to see if the system was working, and it was. And all it had to do is be set to the right level for the temperature. And I haven't had any feedback on that since we got to that point, and we received no calls from anybody of a problem.
When was that, Richard?
That was the last of that was done in about 2009.
So each individual class has its own heat pump.
Basically.
So if there is a temperature differential, and there is, I actually went over there and spent an hour, and I went through just about every class.
And the control of that
One
temperature.
class over here is cold, and the other class over here is hot. There were kids with jackets on in one. It was sporadic throughout, and they let me walk wherever, and I just walked in each one, and it was night and day.
But think about the circulating water. It's one temperature. It doesn't fluctuate. That's where the heat pumps come off of. And the difference is in the setting of the controls on the heat pump.
So the fix is the heat pump. You need that contractor. Is he still under contract to keep monitoring those heat pumps, or?
As far as I know, and when I talked to them, they accepted the fact that they had to do the heat pump controls. It was their responsibility, and they were running the system because we didn't have access to the controls. But like I say, the circulating water is not fluctuating. It's in the units, in the control of the units, and that's a remote control system.
Why can't we have access to the controls or somebody?
Because we didn't have the codes and everything to access it. We couldn't get the access codes.
That's their technology that they have.
That was their system.
So it's proprietary.
Yeah. And in the meeting with them, everybody agreed that they were the ones that had to do that.
So the school facility folks, are they aware of all of this? Is the Is your counterpart in the school system been here 20 years and understands what you just walked through?
They no, I guess they've turned over people too, but there's people there that know that about the system. They've been there since we got to the end of the system.
What can we do to fix it?
It really goes back to the people that are controlling operating the controls.
Well, to fix the heat pumps, and if you don't want to go to $16 million route,
Yeah,
then you need to go back to those people.
See, and I don't have any idea what the 16 million is for, but it might have been for an upgrade in the system to a whole new
Oh,
system.
it's a total rip out. It's a total rip
it had
out.
to be. But
Is it for air quality or is it for temperature uniformity?
that I couldn't tell you. I mean, as far as I know, there's nobody. Well, we haven't received any calls about air quality problems, and the only one I heard is that it was temperature controls. Like I say, the system, if you replaced it, the school itself cost $20 million. That was how much it built. That was how much it cost to build the school, and I would suspect 16 is just rip it all out.
And what year was that we built it?
92.
92.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And we used a 1970 technology. And
Well, it came out of the 70s, but that technology and that design theory went into the 80s. You know, that was a lag from a lag of the energy crisis till that energy crisis became an impact to the economy. It went into the 80s, and you're talking about a building code that was the late 80s building code for a design of a building occupied in 92. So that design, that construction started in the early 90. Yeah, it was about a 2-year construction. So you're looking at middle to late 80s was the code requirements, and it wasn't found out until in the middle 90s that whole system and the whole air turnover was a big health problem.
Yeah, I also was informed that we had another school in the region, maybe a couple others that had that same system, and they elected to not put that in and changed it. I think Norview High School and one other.
Yeah, they went to a whole upgrade system. I mean, a different system. Mm-hmm. We went to the system that was there, and didn't upgrade to the. We went to the system that was chosen in the first place to put in the school.
Yeah, we probably ought to take a visit over there because they have some air quality issues too. Down in the nurse's office and some of the other places, they've got little things by the duct with little color codes of particles and stuff. I mean, it's a little scary.
But you said we haven't had air quality issues or complaints?
I haven't had any contact with anybody from the school in the last 3 years.
Yes, sir, Ms. Whitener.
So the question that's being pushed on us is that we did the building. We didn't do the building, right? We followed the school division.
We oversaw the building of the building, yes. But we didn't do anything without coordinating with the school system.
And they chose the heating.
They chose the system,
AC
the heating system. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a fact. I'm just putting out the facts there. I mean, we were in a meeting. They were laid out. The decisions in the building of the school were led up to the school. We didn't do anything without getting the concurrence of the staff of the school.
Okay.
And they picked the cheaper system that gave them more capital at the time of the construction.
Okay.
But hadn't that always been the policy that it would work that way?
What do you mean?
It's the school choosing the type of air system that they would
Yeah,
have.
that's right.
So that's not a big thing.
No, I mean that's.
They just messed up in choosing the wrong type of system.
Well, that's not a criticism of picking that system. I mean, that is what it is. But the problem that came about was a problem that would have happened in the Cadillac or the Nova.
Yeah.
It would, whatever size it would have been, it was a problem that was a problem of the times, not of the system.
Yeah.
And they picked that system, and it was a choice you make. It was do you want to go to the Cadillac or you want to go to the smaller one?
I think the issue now, though, is that what do we need to do to fix it? We clearly don't have the $16 million. It's clearly going to take an entire summer to do, I think, part of it, they were telling me, or maybe all, but we don't have the funds to be able to do that right now. So you're saying if we get back with the vendor that is in charge of the controls for the air handler units, that there may be some tweaking that they could do to get rid of those different air differentials from room to room.
We'd have to look into what's been done, and it really have to come up to date as to where it is. I mean, I haven't been involved in it in a while.
Two
Yeah,
things
go
I'll
ahead, sir.
mention. I think one of the things we wanted to showcase this evening is kind of give you a little history on the project. Moving forward, I think there's an opportunity for more collaboration with the schools.
Yeah.
Granted, you don't have the financial resources, and for some of the capital plans that they were talking about in the last couple of months, you may have interest in gaining more information in terms of what some of their thoughts might be. You know, is there a master plan for attacking this particular issue with incremental expenditures of money that they may have already? Some of it may already be earmarked. We're not really sure about that, and I think that's the piece that Mr. Hartman's echoing this evening. But kind of back to the original piece, we wanted to kind of talk about the history in terms of what's brought us up to today. Dr. Edmonds, one of the things that I've kind of seen in probably about 26 years of local government, normally when you get to construction on the school system side, normally the school system has jurisdiction of that responsibility. Even in our situation, at a certain point, we would handle the project management, but I think it was under City Manager Massey at the time that they actually made the shift to having the schools actually be responsible for their own construction. Just historically, nothing about Portsmouth. Normally, if you're the entity that does the construction, you also bear the responsibility of problems and issues that you have with it. And who better to know about maybe the construction of an educational facility than to be overseen by the educational service providers. So, I mean, just kind of a little bit of history
Makes sense.
of how it works in other localities.
I guess the only disturbing thing you said is that you haven't talked to anybody in the school system in 3 years, and we got to be able to close that up. I mean, they've been complaining, and they claim they have been talking to somebody. It might not be you.
Touch upon that too, Richard. I think relationship-wise, and help me out, Mr. Hartman, normally when you've got issues of air quality in a locality
It is.
that are environmental issues,
Yeah.
it's the government side that you're
takes care.
contacting with the issue to have it officially investigated. Of course, with DEQ, EPA, but locally it would be the government side. So I just want to, I'm
Yeah, but
pretty
you still
straight on.
want your expert to know
I
what's going
understand.
on. You're going
But
to leave
I'm
him
just
out of the
saying,
loop.
remember, if we understand that, then an official claim of an environmental quality issue may have never been made by anybody. However, just conversations could go on.
See, I don't know if the system was maintained the way it should have been. I mean, really, once we left there, we really had no contact anymore, and I really can't speak good, bad, or otherwise as to what happened in that system.
Right, I understand. Ms. Randall?
Yes, one of the things, too, we have to bear in mind, two elected bodies. People elected the school body as well as the council, and they have the legal responsibilities for ensuring that certain things go on. And they did bring some of these things to the council as they were talking of what their plans and long-range plans were all about, how they were going to do it. And they presented them in open presentations, and several of the PTA presidents were there. I think once we got it into the actual operations, we've run into some other logistical things that probably had not been anticipated when we went the route that we went. But I think that the only thing we can do is to work cohesively and cooperatively together to try to resolve the problem, because they have the ultimate authority for ensuring it, because the voters have put it in their hands by electing them. So we can make recommendations to them as to how we are viewing it, but we cannot tell them how to implement it, because the voters are the ones who put them in their positions, just like, we were put here. Okay, Bill.
Mr. Whitehurst?
Okay.
The issue that I have is we've been given the bad reputation that we built the school.
We did.
And we need to make sure that is cleared up. We built the school the way they wanted us to build it.
Right.
And if there's a problem as far as how to rectify it, we need to agree how to do that too. I've heard so many times, you built it. You tell me that's not necessarily true.
We oversaw the building, but we constantly involved them in the decision.
Okay. Mr. Moody?
Since the school was built in 92 and those problems surfaced shortly after, 92. How much money, do we know how much money we've spent on that system?
We spent, in the rework of the system, we spent about $3.6 million.
Total
Yeah.
in 20 years.
No, I'm talking, well, since we came up with the problem of the air quality, from there till now, we spent about $3.6 million.
That's all. Not that that's enough.
But that, again, that replaced every heat pump and part of the system and put in more fresh air intakes.
When did they do that?
That was done starting in, the initial investigation was in 95, and then the heat pumps went in 3 phases to all the classrooms. And I think they were finished in,
It was almost
Somewhere, I
impressive,
think-
and then you're looking at notes.
it was 98. 98 was when we finished the heat pumps.
Okay.
And then we came in and finished the major indoor air intakes in about 2008, I think.
How much money was that?
Well, that was all the 3.6 million.
Okay, all that was
that was the
included.
3.6
Okay.
million.
All right. Thanks a lot, sir. Appreciate your perspective.
Okay.
Any other questions on that?
Thank you.
Okay.
I got a question.
Oh, yes, sir.
What are we going to do?
That's a good question.
Got to wait for the school people.
Yes, sir. I mean, one
Give us
suggestion
direction.
I'd make that I mentioned a second or two ago, you may want to have some additional collaboration with the school
School board,
system
that's right.
to find out where they are with that project. Remember, during the budget process, they talked to you about this $16 million issue with Churchland in terms of the HVAC system. And you probably want to hear a little bit more from them in terms of what the attack plan is, what they would like to see happen moving forward. Remember, there was some conversation that you all initially started with some of the capital dollars that they had put on reserve. And you may want to talk to them to find out, are some of those capital dollars, possibly earmarked for certain aspects of this project, and what is the big picture from their perspective at this point?
But I thought when they laid that out, all of those capital dollars were allocated for these roof replacements that were coming up, and that 16 million with that Churchland piece was not factored in anything they brought us. It was almost like a bogey out there outside of all of those,
That
if I
was
remember
my-
it right.
that was my understanding.
So they're saying we've got these needs, and here are the different schedules of the
Right.
roof replacements and other things. And oh, by the way, this Churchland piece and this 16 million is a need, an immediate need, but it has nothing to do here. So it's almost
Yeah,
like,
again, you may want to talk to them more.
Okay,
I don't
I
think
will.
from the administration standpoint, we ever got total clarification of where all of those dollars may have been allocated project-wise and what some of their plans may have been.
and if we can replace all the air handling units for $3.5 million, that's still probably a better approach now to do something along those lines than maybe to wipe out the whole system, unless there's ductwork issues and things like that. And I heard a lot of that from the folks there about the ductwork and some of the other issues. Now, again, that could be all hearsay, people passing stuff down. So, yeah, we'll do that.
I think it would be good to have council briefed by someone with the school board or school administration to let us know exactly. I'm not certain I know what the problem is or what problems specifically they want fixed. I'm hearing that
right.
air quality issues may have gone to DEQ or the government agency. If so, we haven't been made privy to it. So I think we need to get them in front of council to
So we've never been
To brief us.
here on this council about any
They
issues
tell
Yeah.
'em.
with the air quality. Ms. Whitehurst, go ahead.
I'm interested in finding out, does the school division hold any additional money than what we've been privy to as far as the school? Is there any other monies they're holding that should be resident with the city on a protected cover?
Can you answer
That's
that
a
with the
legal
system?
distance
Is it in the air handling unit? Is that where they hiding it?
People. That's right.
We need to know that.
Yes.
Okay, that's another issue. Go ahead, sir.
That's another issue.
Before Mr. Hartman leaves, who on your staff or on the staff will be able to articulate or give us the background when we have these further discussions once he leaves?
That's a question for the manager.
Yeah, I'm talking to the manager.
Okay. Thought you were asking Richard.
It's sprinkled
He probably
throughout
said
the
Mickey Mouse.
That's right.
Because what he told me towards today, I never heard before. You know, I heard the briefings about they need money for Churchland, but I never heard anything about the controls.
How they operate.
Yeah, how they operate, and they need to be
That's
tweaked.
right.
This is brand new. I've heard all the other information. So I mean, that's important. And if that's a cheaper fix, as you said, that we can do for a third of the price, we need somebody who can
Right.
articulate
We need
that.
to hold on
And
that
pick
tape.
up.
I'll get with
Pick
this
up.
with the school board chair and see if we can't get somebody to bring us back here and give us a. Hopefully, do it before you leave in 11 days and
So,
10 hours. Is that what it is?
Leave your cell phone on, okay?
Less than 9 hours. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and the last thing I'll mention, thank you, Mr. Hartman. You all had asked about Craddock High School yesterday, and we have already initiated some conversation, contact. I have heard back from Dr. Stuckwich on the records that were in the facility, and we'll be working with them through this week. For what we understand from Dr. Stuckwich, the records that we thought might be personnel files or social security information, they are school test records, which would have the names of individuals. There are no social security numbers on them. It was pre-test and post-test. It's probably about 4 boxes that might be in a stairwell, and we will probably make arrangements with them to get back into the facility and remove those boxes and probably have those records.
What I saw was not in boxes neatly on the stairwell. It was strewn across the floor.
There
Vice
it
Mayor, is that
That's
your
correct.
recollection?
Probably somebody's been in there and dumped some boxes and went through them. That's probably why they're like that.
Possibly. but
Security wasn't a problem.
They weren't packed in boxes on stairwells. It looked like it contained. I remember seeing attendance records on one of them.
Whatever they are, let it clean it up.
Yeah,
So he's
it
got
just needs
something
to be
on
out
in
of
there.
there.
Bottom line.
Yeah, somebody needs to check it out,
We
make
will
sure
work
it's
with them
not-
to get
yeah.
back into the facility, and they said that they will probably take a truck and be able to clean that up and get it out.
Okay.
That's all we have.
Is that it? Okay. Any other items submitted by council?
Are there any council liaison reports?
I have no idea.
Okay. Mr. Whitehead?
We talked yesterday about this, where is it? This thing here.
Okay.
Okay. Back in 2008, it was recommended by email that we do this. I'm glad to see it. It's finally here, but it took a long time to get it there.
Speaking of the management plan,
Yeah.
okay.
There's some other items that are not on it, talking about trying to relocate the compound. We have a wonderful piece of property that's sitting, waiting for development, maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now, that we own. That's the city's compound on it. We need to think about how to move all that stuff, put it someplace that's not as desirable for development, to make sure we have a place to make the city grow. That's in that 2008. Rather than go through this, I have the clerk to make copies of this again and provide it to all of us and try to put it in this package so we understand what we're trying to do and what was suggested by at least one council member many times.
But let me ask, you're saying this was requested in 2008 and he just got it to us yesterday?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Can you speak to
Sure,
that
I'll be
delinquency?
glad
Did
to.
the dog eat your paper? Or?
No.
No, okay.
If you remember, there were a couple of components that we had put together. Remember, there's Destination Portsmouth, Budgeting for Outcomes, all of those pieces. The council at that time, and that council back then, had talked about the need to be involved and make sure that they were abreast of projects, assignments, that type of thing.
Okay.
We created the council committees component, and the council committees represented the end all. The council committees actually mirrored the 4 categories that you have there for the management plan. The management plan for FY09 was approved by council. The council committee system was approved by council in a public work setting. About 2 weeks later, council had made a collective consensus and decision not to move forward with the committee system or the management plan that was tied to it.
That they had just voted on and approved? Okay.
We changed.
Right, so there was a change of decision.
So you put it on the shelf after the council did that, and then we never revisited.
There would not have been a committee system to vet the projects through. So what we have done, and what I mentioned the other day, is we have started committees probably about 2 months ago administratively, with the department heads under the city manager's jurisdiction or what have you. So we've brushed off the old management plan from '09 fiscal year. I've gone to our department heads and again, went back to tweak it. What did we have in the plan? What's already been done? Naturally, because remember, this is a work plan that's really taken from the budget anyway. It was just a way to kind of focus, what are we trying to get done in a year's time? And, work with council and be able to vet that.
Okay.
So, that was the whole purpose of it. So it's not that there was something in '09, '08 that's been working its way to council. There was a conscientious decision at that time that we don't want to do it, and we don't want to do it this way.
But still, there are items that I would like to see in the plan. We decide when and how to make it happen. For example, we had a retreat. We were supposed to do employee evaluation. We haven't done that in almost 2 years. Not good.
Exactly. Not good. I agree.
That's not a good thing.
One thing that happened right away, we were talking about providing the agenda earlier. That happened. We now get the agenda early enough so we can look at it and see what's going on. It works very well. There's some items that were done, but a lot of things, there's a whole list of the pump station, all kinds of stuff on here that I kept to one day hopefully bring it up again to say, we need to do these things. It's for the people. So I'll give this to the clerk, have the clerk make copies. And
Okay. Let me ask, what would be the likelihood with the way, if we're going to go this route, which I think we agreed yesterday, we like this format, only to put those columns in there that address the dates and the last time that the council was abreast. Each one of these sections, we have a council person assigned to that group that could meet with your management and your team on a more detailed basis. Like we said, you're never going to go through all of these items every quarter, but it would be nice that if you did it on a more detailed level and a liaison was assigned to each one of these sections, so we'd had someone on council that had some knowledge of this. Is that what the original plan in '08 that we say we didn't want to do, did it encompass that?
No.
No.
The original plan in '08 was to assign 2 council members to each committee.
Each one.
And each committee was going to be a council administrative committee.
Right.
Okay.
It was going to have a public comment period, a number of things. It was going to actually work in the public domain. Some of the decisions at that time, and I'll kind of be real cool as I approach this, some of the things that you all may discuss from time to time in previous councils in terms of your council liaison reports, issues, does everybody have something to report all the time? The person who's represented on a particular committee, will they actually be able to report out in a timely manner? Those were a lot of the issues back then that had the council at that time decide that maybe everybody is not up to speed or has the desire or even maybe the time to put that same level of commitment that would unilaterally keep everybody on the same page and informed. So, those were some of the things that the council was, I would say, wrestling with, but kind of tackling and trying to address at that time.
Mr. Moody?
I think some of the other concerns that particular council expressed was concern that most of these things involve expenditures, and to have 2 council members on there and this thing be moving along without the entire council kept abreast. And it sounds good, but it's hard to do report outs and keep everybody up to speed on some of these projects. So I think one of the concerns that led to probably passing on this at that time was that we're talking about expending tax dollars, and I think council felt that the whole council needed to be in the loop on that.
The issue with that, though, is if you don't break these things up and have some level of trust that one or two of us can go off and sit in these meetings, get this information, bring it back to the whole council. I mean, it defeats the whole purpose. I mean, it almost lends itself to nobody trusts anybody, so we want everybody to bring it up.
I don't think it was
to the whole
trust.
council.
No, don't say it was trust. I think it was concern that council's interest was wanting to be involved every step of the way. Now, as I read this yesterday, we already have 2 staff people on this, and I would expect those 2 staff people to do that reporting back to council. Because they're the ones that are going to live with it, 7 days a week in some cases. So they're going to be with it every step of the way. They can report back more efficiently, more accurately than 2 council members can, because everybody knows that we're not at City Hall 5 days a week.
Okay.
Mayor, thank you. I'd just like to reiterate, I think this was good to have this passed out. And I think it's also good that if there are other things that we feel that might need to be on here, as Vice Mayor suggested, I think that's a good idea, too. Also, I think we ought to look at prioritizing some things that we know we can't do everything, but there are some weightier things, important. And this gives us a better eye view of things that need to be done and things that we need to push a little bit further. So I want to thank the city manager for even doing this. This is great.
Right. Yeah, I like that prioritization step. I think we definitely need to do that.
Did you want to add something?
No, I'll mention when we come back, because as we mentioned yesterday, we'll be kind of fine-tuning to kind of talk to you a little bit more about things that you'd like to see in here. Again, with that overarching focus, is it something that we literally can get done in a year? Do we have the resources to get it done? Or is it more so something visionary that council would want to spend more time kind of shaping? The other thing I think we'll need to talk to you about, too, when we come back on the 25th or 26th or so, let us talk to you about the process that we're using. We're down to a point now where we actually have the 4 committee meetings. Is it the 3rd Friday? The 3rd Friday of each month. Okay. So each committee is a 2-hour session, 8 to 10, 10 to 11, 1 to 3, 3 to 5. So we're actually doing a shotgun to go through all the projects, where we are in the committee. So again, even if it's on a quarterly basis, we've got the monthly mechanism that's reporting out, following up. So when we come back to you with any type of report, you've got the detail. Again, I think the project assignment as you budget it has been determined. So, I mean, by approving the budget, the council's made the decision that that's a project. How we're going to manage it in a day-to-day, we'd like to work with you to bring you the information, and then you all can be in the driver's seat of the sense of direction. Is the project going in the right direction that you want it? Do you want it to go in a different direction? What are some of the ramifications?
There has to be exceptions, though, because, for example, the city compound, that's going to be a long-term project to try to relocate all that stuff from that wonderful piece of land that has a excellent potential for redevelopment. We may be looking for grant funding, other kinds of funding that might move some of those things over a period of time. So it's not going to be done in 1 year. That's just one example.
Ms. Randall?
Yes, the thing is that I think we make sure that we keep an open mind as we look at these things, and when we bring them up, all of us have to be involved in the input in terms of which way we go. There was a time when we would have group sessions where we could be together and we would go through these issues that we need to address. With the point that we are in there, we really need to make sure we have a committee structure, but everything that comes through in a committee structure should come back in terms of everybody getting the information. This is why the information that Charles has is good information, but we need to look at those things in there that we need to address and bring them to the table for discussion. And I know we have a committee process, but we need to make sure we keep everything open. And that's not a criticism. The thing is that so many things are coming up that we all need to make sure that we are on the same page. Okay? All right, so that was the only thing is, you know.
Okay.
I
Anybody
wanted to
else?
make sure we work that through. You understand where I'm
You
coming
got
from.
anything else, Mr. Chandler? All right, thank you. We're
You really
adjourned.
want to get to Deborah?
Well, not quite. That
Not quite.
We have a motion to go into closed meeting.
Oh, we did. That's right.
I move we go into closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 to discuss appointments by City Council. The subject matter of the meeting is qualification of candidates for appointments to boards and commissions. The purpose of the meeting is to permit confidential discussion of the candidates.
Second.
Mr. Cherry?
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Mr. Heretic?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Ms. Randall?
Yes.
Mr. Whitehurst?
Yes.
Mayor Wright? We are in closed session. Thank you.
Okay.